God, guys! Ayo's lock salon is on fire! Hello?
Madam, fire!
What?
The salon! Something happened! The generator exploded!
No. What are we going to do? No, this cannot be happening. Help me.
You should have stopped when enough became enough.
But every ladder has the place it ends. The line stayed inside Ayo's head long after the call ended. She remained standing on the balcony, with the phone still pressed against her ear. Rainwater dripped softly from the roof above. Down below, Lagos traffic moved endlessly through the night. Headlights, noise, life continued normally. But inside Ayo's chest, something had shifted. Slowly, she lowered the phone. Her heart beat harder now. Not panic exactly. Something colder. Recognition. Because deep down, she already knew who the voice belonged to. The next morning, Ayo arrived at her salon earlier than usual. The large glass doors reflected her image as she entered. Luxury heels, designer bag, perfect makeup, the exact kind of woman she once dreamed about becoming. Normally, that image satisfied her deeply. But today, it didn't. Workers greeted her immediately. "Good morning, madam." "Morning." She answered casually. One assistant rushed over excitedly. "Madam, the actress will book appointment. Don't confirm." Oh. Another added quickly. "And that brand from Abuja say they want partnership meeting next week." Ayo nodded absent-mindedly. Usually news like this that excited her. But today, her mind kept replaying the voice from last night. Every ladder has the place it ends. She entered her office quietly and shut the door. The room smelled faintly of perfume and new furniture. Her office alone was bigger than that apartment she used to share years ago. Ayo sat down slowly. Then suddenly, her phone buzzed again. Miss Isabella. Ayo stared at the screen for 2 full seconds before answering. "Good morning, ma." Miss Isabella's voice sounded warm as always. "My dear, hope you slept well." "Yes, ma." A brief silence followed. Then the other woman spoke casually. "Come have dinner with me tonight." Ayo's finger tightened slightly around the phone. "Tonight?" "Yes." Another pause. Then Miss Isabella added softly, "We need to talk, woman to woman." Something about the sentence made coldness crawl slowly across Ayo's back. Still, she forced calmness into her voice. "Okay, ma. I will send my driver." Then the call ended. Ayo stared at the phone again, this time much longer. That evening, rain fell heavily across Lagos. By the time Miss Isabella's black SUV arrived outside Ayo's apartment, the streets already glowed with reflections from traffic lights and floodwater. The driver stepped out immediately with umbrella in hand. "Good evening, ma." Ayo nodded quietly and entered the car. The ride felt strangely silent as they drove through Victoria Island. Ayo watched rainwater race across the windows while her thoughts moved endlessly inside her head. Could Isabella know? No, that is impossible. How would she know? Unless, Ayo swallowed slightly. Mama Ibiji. The thought entered suddenly. For the first time in months, fear touched her properly. Real fear. Miss Isabella's mansion looked calmer tonight. No party, no music, no guest, only silence and rain. A stairwell led Ayo inside. The massive living room glowed softly beneath warm lights. Miss Isabella sat near the window, wearing a simple black silk robe, holding a wine glass loosely in one hand. Ayo, she said softly. Good evening, ma. Sit. Ayo obeyed carefully. For some seconds, neither of them spoke. Rain tapped gently against the windows behind them. Finally, Miss Isabella smiled faintly. You are nervous. Ayo forced a small laugh. No, ma. Miss Isabella sipped her wine slowly. Then suddenly, she said, you know what I like about hungry people? Ayo froze slightly. The other woman continued calmly. They are easy to recognize. Ayo kept her expression controlled carefully. I don't understand, ma. Miss Isabella smiled again. Yes, you do. The room suddenly felt smaller. The other woman stood up slowly and walked toward the giant window. When I first met you in church, she said quietly, I saw myself. Ayo said nothing. You smiled politely. Miss Isabella turned slightly. But your eyes were counting everything. The car, the jewelry, the respect. And most importantly, the power. Ayo swallowed hard. Still, she said nothing. Then, Miss Isabella placed something gently on the table between them. An old faded photograph. Ayo looked down and immediately felt her stomach tighten violently. Mama Ibiji. Young Isabella standing beside her. The room became completely silent. Miss Isabella watched her calmly. No need to pretend anymore. The other woman said quietly, for the first time since becoming rich, Ayo truly felt small again. Ow! She whispered. Miss Isabella leaned back and said, because before you, there was me. Rain thundered at the outside. Ayo stared at the woman across for her, differently now. Not just rich, not just powerful, dangerous, experienced, and a survivor. Miss Isabella continued speaking softly. Mama Ibeji helped me many years ago. Ayo's throat tightened. But unlike you, Isabella said, I learned something early. Ayo managed to speak finally, and she asked, what? The other woman's eyes remained steady on hers. There is no permanent stealing. Silence filled the room heavily. Miss Isabella picked up the photograph again, slowly. At first, the favor feels sweet, she continued. You rise, you shine. You become everything people once ignored. Her voice remained calm. Then one day, you realize your wealth is standing on borrowed legs. Ayo looked away. Image flashed inside her mind suddenly. Rose complaining quietly on the phone. Jennifer forcing laughter despite struggling. Miss Isabella losing contracts. All while she prospered. The guilt she kept burying rose again sharply now. Miss Isabella watched her carefully. You have been using the soap carelessly. Ayo's eyes snapped back immediately. How do you know? Miss Isabella almost smiled. Because your greed became noisy. The word hit hard and deep down. Ayo knew they were true. For some seconds, only rain spoke between them. Then finally, Ayo asked quietly, So why did you call me here? Miss Isabella's expression changed slightly. For the first time all night, something almost human appeared inside it. Tiredness. I called you because I know how this ends. Ayo frowned slowly. Miss Isabella leaned forward and said, Mama Ibeji warned you, didn't she? Ayo stayed silent. The other woman continued. She always gives one final warning. Ayo's chest tightened. If you ever use the soap, Miss Isabella said, and then enter the bathroom again before another person enters. Ayo's face changed instantly. Miss Isabella noticed immediately and became still. Very still. Ayo, the younger woman, stood abruptly. No. Fear exploded across her body suddenly, sharp, violent, because memory hit her immediately. 3 nights ago, after using the soap inside a hotel bathroom, during a business trip, she had rushed back inside moments later because she forgot her wristwatch near the zinc. Ayo's breathing became uneven. No. Miss Isabella stood slowly now when Ayo shook her head. No. When did you go back inside? The room suddenly felt hot. Ayo grabbed her head tightly. It was a mistake. When? 3 days ago. Silence. Heavy silence. Miss Isabella closed her eyes briefly, almost like somebody hearing a death sentence already spoken. Then, quietly, it has started. Immediately, the lights flickered once. Ayo froze, then again. Outside, thunder cracked violently across the sky. The air conditioner shut off suddenly. The room became still. Too still. Ayo's breathing turned shallow now. No, she whispered. Then her phone rang. One of our workers. Ayo answered instantly. Hello? Screaming filled the line. Madam, fire, fire. Ayo's blood froze. What? The salon. Something happened. Did the generator explode? Ayo staggered backward. No. Another call entered immediately. Then another. Our accountant, our manager, our assistant crying. Bank issues, police issues, partnership cancelled, equipment destroyed. One after the other. Like dominoes collapsing violently. Ayo stood trembling in the middle of the room while our entire empire began falling apart in real time. Exactly the way it once rose. Fast. Miss Isabella watched quietly, not smiling, not celebrating, because she remembered these feelings too. The moment life bends back, Ayo slowly looked up at her with tears finally forming. Help me. Miss Isabella's face remained unreadable. Then softly, she said, You should have stopped when enough became enough. Another loud thunder shook the windows, and somewhere deep inside the city, Madam Ayo's empire began disappearing, piece by piece. The same Lagos that once praised her loudly had already started turning its head toward the next rising star. Ayo stood frozen in the middle of Miss Isabella's living room, while her phone kept vibrating non-stop inside her trembling hand. Call after call, problem after problem. The salon generator explosion has damaged almost half of the building. Customers were posting videos already. One influencer was live streaming outside. Another worker was crying that expensive wigs and equipment had burned. Then our accountant called again. Madam, something dey wrong with account o. What again? Ayo shouted desperately. Money don't disappear. Ayo's news weakened instantly. What do you mean disappear? I mean disappear. The line crackled badly through the rail. Several transfers don't happen this evening. I don't understand them. Ayo looked helplessly toward Miss Isabella. For the first time since becoming rich, she looked exactly like the struggling girl she used to be. Small, afraid, lost. No, she whispered shakily. Then suddenly, another memory slammed into her mind. Mama Ibeji's voice. If you are careful. Ayo grabbed her head tightly. No, no, no. Miss Isabella slowly collected the wine glass from the table and placed it aside. Her movement remained calm. So calm. You still don't understand, she said quietly. Ayo looked up desperately. I made mistake. Yes. Please help me. Miss Isabella stared at her for some seconds before finally speaking. The mistake was not entering the bathroom twice. Ayo frowned weakly, through panic. The mistake started the day you chose greed over people who genuinely loved you. The words landed heavily, and suddenly, Rose's laughter flashed through Ayo's memory. Jennifer sleeping inside her apartment during hard times years ago because she had nowhere else to stay. The three of them eating cheap food together while promising never to betray each other after becoming successful. Ayo shut her eyes painfully. More calls entered. She ignored them now because deep down, she already understood. Everything was going. Everything. The room remained silent except for rain and distant thunder. Then Miss Isabella spoke again. There may still be one way. Ayo looked up immediately. What? Miss Isabella nodded. And that hesitation alone revealed something important. Fear. Even Miss Isabella feared certain things. You will have to return to Mama Ibeji. 3 hours later, they left Lagos. Rain still fell heavily across the road as Miss Isabella's SUV speed through the darkness. Neither the two women spoke much during the journey. The silence between them felt strange now. Not friendship, not enemies. More like two people connected by the same sin. Ayo sat near the window, clutching her phone tightly. while messages flooded non-stop. Customers demanding refunds, workers panicking, blog page posting gossip already. Famous celebrity hairstylist involved in financial scandal. Luxury salon catches fire mysteriously. Everything collapsing publicly, fast, too fast. At some point, during the drive, Ayo finally spoke quietly. Did it happen to you too? Miss Isabella kept her eyes ahead. Yes, she swallowed. What did you lose? The other woman smiled faintly. A child. Ayo turned sharply toward her. Miss Isabella's face remained expressionless. I was pregnant during the worst part of my own downfall years ago. The car remained silent. Rainwater dragged slowly across the windows. I begged Mama Ibeji to stop it. Miss Isabella continued softly. She did. Her voice became out weak. What? Miss Isabella looked at her. You never leave those things complete. The meaning settled slowly inside Ayo's chest. Even now, after all the wealth, after all the power, Miss Isabella was still paying. By the time they reached the village, dawn was beginning to break faintly across the sky. Everything looked exactly the same. The narrow path, the angry bottles, the disturbing silence. Even the goat tied nearby looked familiar somehow. Ayo's leg felt weak as she followed Miss Isabella toward the hut. The closer they moved, the heavier the air felt. Then slowly, the door opened. Mama Ibeji stepped outside. Older now, but her eyes remained sharp, enough to freeze blood. She looked first at Miss Isabella, then at Ayo. No surprise appeared on her face, almost like she had been expecting them. You came back, the old woman said calmly. Nobody answered immediately. Mama Ibeji's gaze settled fully on Ayo now, and yours ended faster than I expected. Ayo stepped forward desperately. Mama, please. The old woman raised one hand slightly. Silence returned immediately. Then Mama Ibeji spoke quietly. I warned you. Tears finally split down Ayo's face. I made a mistake. Yes, please help me. Mama Ibeji stared at her for a long moment, then slowly turned and entered the hut. Come. Inside, the room smelled strongly of herbs, smoke, and something older, something rotting beneath the surface. Ayo's heartbeat pounded hard as she entered. Miss Isabella followed behind quietly. Mama Ibeji sat slowly on a wooden chair, then slowly looked at Ayo properly. Do you know why your own collapsed so violently? Ayo shook her head weakly. The old woman pointed at Miss Isabella. She was hungry too. But Isabella still feared consequences. She spoke carefully, slowly, because she knew suffering. Mama Ibeji's eyes hardened toward Ayo. But you, the old woman shook her head slowly. You became addicted to taking. The truth hit brutally because it was true. The richer Ayo became, the greedier she grew. Bigger salons, more money, more status, more stealing, never enough. Mama Ibeji continued calmly. Power reveals character faster than poverty. Then finally, Ayo fell to her knees. Please, Mama, I don't want to lose everything. Mama Ibeji stared at her quietly, then finally said, You already have. Ayo broke down crying completely now. Real crying, not soft tears. Ugly pain. The kind dragged from deep fear. Mama Ibeji watched her without emotion. Then she spoke one final time. There are things words cannot buy back once destroyed. Ayo's crying slowly weakened. And in that moment, for the first time in years, she truly saw herself clearly. Rose, Jennifer, Miss Isabella, all the people whose life bent downward while ours climbed upward. All because she wanted more. More. Always more. The silence inside the hut deepened heavily. Then unexpectedly, Miss Isabella spoke quietly. Can it end? Mama Ibeji looked at her. It's already ours. The old woman's eyes shifted toward Ayo again. She will leave. Ayo looked up slowly through tears, but not as who she became. Outside, morning birds had begun singing faintly. Soft light entered through crack in the hut walls. Mama Ibeji stood slowly. The wet is gone. Ayo lowered her head weakly. The borrowed favor has returned. Then the old woman added quietly, and now, life will stand straight again. 6 months later, Lagos moved on like nothing happened. People always moved on. Madam Ayo's luxury salon became an empty building, eventually rented by another business. Online gossip faded. New scandals replaced old ones. Rose slowly rebuilt her fashion business again. Jennifer's tailoring shop became busy once more. Neither the two women ever fully understood what truly happened. Only that somehow, after Ayo disappeared from the spotlight, things in their lives began improving naturally again. As for Ayo, she left Lagos quietly. No grand goodbye. No announcement. She said she traveled abroad. Some said she went broke. Others claimed spiritual problems followed her. The stories changed depending on who was talking, but the truth was simpler. Ayo returned to the village. Not inside Mama Ibeji's hut, far from it. She rented one small roadside shop near the motor park, where she braided simple hair for market women and schoolgirls quietly. No luxury, no designer clothes, no assistants calling her madam, just ordinary life. At first, the silence nearly destroyed her. But slowly, something unexpected happened. For the first time in years, she started sleeping peacefully. One hot afternoon, while making a little guest hair outside her small shop, Ayo looked up and 2 wealthy women drove past in a shiny black Jeep. Years ago, envy would have twisted violently inside her chest. But now, she simply watched the car disappear into dust. Then continued braiding calmly, while evening sunlight stretched slowly across the village road. Say sometimes the things we chase the hardest are the very things that destroy us. Poverty can push people toward desperate choices. Life is hard. And when survival becomes difficult, right and wrong can begin to blur. And permit me to say this: not every fortune, not every riches you see today was built through hard work. Not every fortune you see today was built through hard work or honesty. Money can buy comfort. Power can buy respect, but neither can buy back a damaged soul. I learned that every shortcut has a price, and every borrowed blessings must one day be returned. Our greatest mistake was not being poor. It was allowing desperation to become greed, and greed to become addiction. So remember, not every rise is a blessing, and not every fall is a curse. Sometimes, losing what was never truly yours is the best step toward finding peace. Yes. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Stay blessed and take care.